Now, it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker this morning. Pastor Craig Eagle is with us from Calgary. He's here to share with us actually this Sunday and next Sunday, so we're very, very lucky. If you have not met Craig yet, make sure you do so after the service. Him and his wife Karen are both here today, and we are happy to have them with us. Craig is one of our missions partners. He does mission work in Romania and Bulgaria, which he'll share more about over the next couple Sundays. So I won't say too much about that, but that is our main mission partner that we have in this church. And so it's always good to reconnect with him even on that level and just hear about what he's doing and what God's doing among his kind of parish in Romania and Bulgaria. So I will invite Craig to come up, welcome him here this morning, and pass this over to him. Now, you can sort of set this up however you'd like.
Good morning. Worship team, that was really good. It's nice to hear the church singing again, isn't it? And believe me, it's not just this church. Everybody's trying to still gear up again, but that was really well done, and good job, Caitlin, and Cassidy, and band. Where's the band guys? Where did you go? Well done, you guys. That sounded really good. So God bless you. It's as Brianne said, I'm a partner here, but I'm your partner. You're my partner, and it's always a privilege. And I don't use that word tritely. It's always a privilege to be able to come, share with you, reconnect with you. This church matters to me a lot, and in many ways. And I do think of you a lot when I'm gone. I think of you a lot when I'm overseas. And there's particular people here that have really stepped up and helped me in significant ways. So I'm very grateful for the help of this church and the love of this church. So this morning I'm going to talk to you about dreamers. I'm going to talk to you about what it means to be a dreamer, why it matters to be a dreamer, ask you if you are dreamers, I suppose, and we can go there. Oh, look at that, dreaming along with God. And there's, of course, I suppose, in terms of our Christian understanding, the ultimate dreamer, Joseph. And let me start by saying this. When Joseph was a little boy, he was driven by his dream. God spoke to him, told him that he'd chosen him, and when others didn't understand, Joseph still believed and trusted God and was willing to dream on. I hope that's your story. I hope that if that's not your story, that can become your story. To dream on. Genesis 1:27 and 28 talks about the fact that you have a dream, and we're going to get there in a minute. But you do possess a dream. You do. And I hope it's a big one. What have I got next, Brianna? Yeah. Disney has suggested that that a dream is a wish that your heart makes. But I can assure you that your dream is much bigger than that. Your dream, in fact, is divine. It doesn't come from anything in your own heart. It comes from God's heart. God places the dream. He doesn't expect you to wish something to come true. He places it there. Can we flip to the next one? Yeah. A dream is a purpose that God has planted in you. You see that? You understand that? God has planted your dream within you. It had nothing to do with what you conjured up. It had nothing to do with what you wished for. God has placed a dream in your heart. And that's the dream you want to be chasing down all the time. Flip over, Brian. This is the most recent dream that I've been able to be a part of and witness. And I'm not going to talk much about my mission field this morning, but this is my mission partner in Bulgaria. His name's Iliev. And he took me out one morning a couple weeks ago to take a look at this piece of land that he's trying to buy. And that's him literally standing with me, perusing this piece of property and dreaming that one day God would give that to his church to build. You guys know what that feels like here. There's been dreams about the purpose of this building, this property, other property, whatever it might be. You've dreamt that, whether it was in the past or whether it's recently, I don't know, but it's been a dream. That's what Ilya is doing right now over in Bulgaria. And I was able to be a part of that, witness that, and enjoy that with him. But he's very much in that process right now. You flip, Brianne. So let me ask you this as we sort of launch here this morning. How do you know, ask yourself this, how do you know if your dream is from God? Whatever it is you're carrying in your heart, whatever you have been sensing is in there. What have you been hoping for? How do you know if it's from God? Because it's quite different if it's from God or if it's just from your own imagination. How do you know? Well, two things. First of all, the dream is bigger than your ability to fulfill it. The dream is bigger than your ability to fulfill it. Do you feel that way? Do you feel like, I can never do that? There's no way that's ever going to happen. If the dream is bigger than your ability to fulfill it, it's a good chance it got planted there. The second thing is this. Even if you try to let go of your dream, and sometimes we do try to cut loose. Even if you try to let go of your dream, there's no way. Even if you try to let go of your dream won't let go of you. Kind of like a magnet. And it's just right there and it's not going anywhere. The dream won't let go of you. If that's been happening, if it's resurrected itself, if it's come back to your mind, if it's come back to your heart time and time and time again, even if you tried to walk, it's probably from God. You should probably be paying attention to that. Let me give you some points here that I think can help you. These are truths that can set a dreamer free. First of all, you do have a dream. You do. You have a dream. It's part of what it means to be human. Created in the image of God. Genesis 1:27 and 28. You all know those scriptures from creation. God created man in his own image. So what does that mean in context of a dreamer? Well, God was a dreamer. God dreamt up what he would create. He dreamt up what we would be now living in. That originally was a dream in his heart. It was a thought in his heart. It was a process in his plan. And if you're created in his image, and you are, then you also by nature possess a dream. The second thing is this. You don't have to invent your dream. You don't have to come up with it. Your dream was planted in you before you were born. And I refer you to Psalm 138:8. Why don't I just take a second and read that for you? Psalm 138:8. It says this. The Lord will fulfill his purpose. Operative words there are his purpose. The Lord will fulfill his purpose for me. Your love, O Lord, endures forever. Do not abandon the work of your hands. Who's the work of his hands? You are. So who's the one who has the purpose? You do. You have a purpose that's been planted in you by God. And God will not abort his purpose for your life. Third thing is this. Your dream is unique and important. You have been handcrafted by God to fulfill a big need he cares deeply about. Do you believe that? Do you believe that there's something in the world, some need, some purpose, some requirement that God has placed on you? That's a big question. Ephesians 2:10 tells us that that is in fact true. That he has a plan for you. That before the foundations of the earth, he placed in you a purpose that he intends to fulfill. And I would go this far to say, if you don't fulfill it, it won't be fulfilled. I call it our personal portion of responsibility. It's like God funnels it down from heaven into each person's head, and we receive that thing, and now we carry that. It's our personal portion of responsibility. That's what I believe Ephesians 2:10 teaches. We are his workmanship, created for good works in Christ, which he prepared in advance for us to do. When do you think in advance was? Probably before the creation of you. God knew what his purpose for you was going to be. And so, therefore, again, if you don't fulfill it, who's going to fulfill it? You say, well, I guess God can take care of that himself. Well, sure he can. Sure he can. But part of his whole reason in coming to redeem us was to partner with us so that we could work with him in redeeming this society that we're part of. So there's something Ephesians 2:10 that resides within you. And I think it'd be worth your while to explore it, to pull it down, to find out, and get after it. You'll be a lot more fulfilled in your life, I promise you that. Okay? The third thing is this, or fourth thing is this. Your dream is yours to act on. You guys, this is important. Your dream is yours to act on. God will not force you to choose. He will not force you to decide whether or not you're going to do it. It's yours to act on. It's yours to take hold of. Philippians 3:12 says this, and I love this. Paul was pretty good at pursuing his dream. So Philippians 3:12 says this. Not that I have already obtained all of this, and you guys could say the same. Not that I have already obtained all of this, or have already been made perfect, but I press on. I press on to take hold of that which God has called me heavenward in Jesus Christ. God is pulling you forward. And while he's pulling you forward, he wants you to take hold. He wants you to grab that thing and run with it. And I want that for you too. I want that for you too, because I've said already that if you want to live a fulfilled life, you go after what God's placed in your heart. Let me give you a few things here. I call these dream indicators, and I think it's worth taking a look at them quickly here. You can observe them in your own life. First one is this. What have I always been good at? Real practical question. But I guarantee you that the gifts and the skills that you possess were given to you. So it's a fair question to ask, what have I always been good at? What have you always been good at? I mean, all around this room, there's people with different skills. different abilities. Why do you have that ability? What have I always been good at? Second thing is this. What needs do I care about most? Are there certain things when you hear them in the news or you observe them or somebody tells you something? Are there certain things that sort of shake you and wake you? What needs do I care about the most? We have a society, as you well know, that is full of problem and trouble and need. What are the things that you really respond to? And it's a natural response. Again, you don't conjure it up. It's just, oh, that hit me. What are those needs that you care about most? Third thing is this. Who do I admire most? The people who are our heroes, as it were. The people that we think are doing a pretty good thing. Those are the people you admire. And why do you admire them? What is it about them? What is it about their character? What is it about their calling or their gifting or their doing? What is it about them that you admire? There's a reason why that rings a bell within your heart. So who do I admire most? What makes me feel most fulfilled? When you put your hand to something, is it something that gives you great satisfaction? You go, I can't wait to do that again. What are those things that kind of jazz you? Right? We need to pay attention to those as well, because there's a reason why they do. And I'll guarantee you that not everybody in this room feels the same way about everything, because it's a very personal thing. But what makes you feel most fulfilled? How about this? Kind of along the same line. What do I love to do most? We all have that thing or those things that you would just love to be able to spend your whole day at that. What do I love to do most? Why do you love to do it most? It probably tracks back to all those other questions. What do I love to do most? What have I felt called to do? Okay, well, here's where we're coming to a bit of a summation, right? Because if all those things are lining up, there's a good chance that there's calling involved. And I would say this. We use calling in the church mostly in a ministry sense. You know, the call to the ministry. Well, that's not so much what I'm talking here, because we are all called to be priests. And so I'm saying, what are you called to do? What's the workplace you're called to be in? What's the occupation you're called to put your hand to? What are the people you're called to help through those things? What are you called to do? I absolutely believe that there are teachers that are called. I absolutely believe there's doctors and nurses that are called. Understand? There's engineers that are called. There's accountants that are called. There's others that aren't necessarily called. There's others that have just chosen an occupation, but some are called. What are you called to do? Are you in it? I'll bet a lot of you are in it. I'll bet most of you are in it. I really do. I bet that's true, because most of the people I'm talking to, if not all, are believers in Christ. So I believe you're called to do what you're doing. Take that with some peace, right? What do I most want to be remembered for? I got taken to task on this a few weeks ago because I wrote a post about I don't care about my legacy. What? And the point I was trying to make was I don't want to end it with my legacy. I want to end it with faithfulness to Jesus. At the end of my days, I want people to look at me and go, he gave it all back. I don't want to be remembered for my legacy, but I do want to be remembered for faithfulness. And that's what I would challenge you with. At the end of your days, will Jesus be able to look at you and go, he remained faithful? Right? Karen's grandpa was a pastor for many, many years. And when he died, they put on his tombstone, what were the exact words? It's pretty profound. He remained faithful. Yeah. Like, what a great, think about that. Because our life's eternal. And so if they're putting you in the ground and writing on your tombstone, he remained faithful, your future's pretty sealed. Right? So what do you most want to be remembered for? Well, I hope it's that you can say that I remained faithful to that thing that God called me to do. Day by day, week by week, month by month. Right? What's that saying? The days are long, but the years are short. Right? So when you're grinding it out, remember that there's an ultimate eventual purpose in all of it. So keep grinding it out. What do I most want to be remembered for? And then this one, you guys. What am I willing to sacrifice for my dream? You think about anybody in any kind of a realm who has, I guess, in a secular understanding, who has achieved. Well, they've sacrificed. They've sacrificed. At least 98% of the people who have achieved have sacrificed. But I'm talking here in a deeper sense. I'm talking here in the sense of what's God calling me to do, and what am I willing to give up to do that? Because I can tell you that if it's worth doing, there's going to be some ouch along the way. And it's so crazy. I was 2 weeks ago today, I was speaking in a church in Bulgaria, and I started telling them a story. When Karen and I were first married, so we're going back, 2007?
They're going to have a lot of questions.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So do I. So I'm talking, and the pastor Elia, who I showed you, he's sitting right up here, and I get telling this story about this. So we're going back to like 1980, 81 in there somewhere, and that's when the Iron Curtain was in full grip. Some of you will remember that. Some of you are obviously too young to remember that. But Bulgaria was not a place you wanted to visit. I said to Eli, I didn't know if I'd even get in, and then I thought if I got in, I'm probably not going to get out. Not in those days. Like, it was a hard place for Christians, hard place for believers. And so I'm telling them this, that, back in about 1980, God started to place this dream in my heart to go and work in the Iron Curtain nations. Now, of course, since that time, they're not the Iron Curtain nations anymore, but they're still bizarre. And I'm saying, so here I am now. How many years later? I don't know, 10 years later? 42 years later? But think about that. I used to have the books stacked up on my nightstand beside our bed. Well, it wasn't a nightstand. It was like a TV tray, because we didn't have enough money for a nightstand. But, and I had all these books about, working in the Eastern Bloc and all that kind of stuff. And I used to read about it, and I used to think, oh, scary. I used to think all these things, right? And I'm telling Neely, and now here I am, 42 years later, standing and preaching to a church in Bulgaria, full of believers. Amazing, you guys. I'm full of believers that are just hungry for Jesus. First generation. The way Ilya describes it, he says there was no spiritual inheritance in this nation. We don't have we don't have another generation behind us that we can ask questions to. You know, we're cutting the teeth in all this stuff. And so I thought, well, then God's perfect timing, I guess, because here I am trying to do my best now to align with you and help you. But what am I willing to sacrifice for my dream? Well, I could spend a long time, and it would sound like I was patting myself on the back or sharing super war stories or something, but believe me, there have been sacrifices. Still are. I'll talk to Karen later. But it's because the dream. And so for me, it goes back that many years. And somebody needs to hear this. And I'm just seeing it come to pass now in a lot of regards. So if you've been waiting 10 years, well, you might have 32 more years to wait. Okay, seriously. I remember back in the days when we were receiving our calling, receiving the dream. I remember we were praying after church one night, and Karen's dad came up to me, and he knew what I was praying about. And he's told me this story. Wait, Corrie ten Boom, you guys have heard of Corrie ten Boom. Corrie ten Boom didn't start her ministry till she was in her 60s. He says to me, well, Craig, he says, God might just have you be in Corrie ten Boom in her 60s. You know, I was 20, 21 or 22 years old. I'm thinking, well, that's stupid, right? But if he were still alive, he'd be seeing the fulfillment in some of this just happening now. I think that's amazing. And but I don't say it again to tell you a story about me. I say it to kind of shine that out upon you guys. Because God's got something going on with you. And I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're close to retirement or in retirement or past retirement. So, can you be that? Well, I don't care if you're Macy's age. God knows what he's doing with you. And I promise you, he's speaking to you. Because he's alive. And he wants your life. And he doesn't want your life only until you're 12. He wants your life until you're 120, right? He wants your life. And he can still pump stuff in. He can still pump stuff in. He can. And if you feel like, no, I'm on the trash heap, squandered all that, no, you didn't. No, you didn't, because you're not powerful enough to squander it. Do you hear me? You're not powerful enough to squander it. You don't have that kind of force. If God places something, it is not moving. It is not moving. The only way it moves is if you just defiantly sin and defiantly refuse and defiantly walk away. But besides that, it's not going anywhere. If he's placed it, it's there. Okay? It's part of what it means to be a dreamer. So, I don't know. That was more of a talk. That was more of a little teaching. I didn't really preach today. But I just kind of thought that maybe somebody here needed to hear that this morning. I need to be reminded of that most days. The days when you feel like quitting. Anybody ever feel like quitting? How's everybody looking forward to Monday? Right? Right? What an awful place to go. Right? And yet it's not. It's not. Not if there's purpose. Not if God's placed you. Do you believe God can do that? Do you think he'd reach down and grab you by the head and then just put you there in that office? I do. I believe he has all over this room. The great joys and the great satisfaction and the greatest fulfillments are on the other side. They're still coming. But if you remain faithful to what he's called you to, you will have effect and you're going to make a difference. And you know what? When you walk into that place, wherever you're going to walk into tomorrow morning, if you're at least trying to live according to some of this, in other words, trying to make it according to God's plan for your life, when you walk into that place tomorrow morning, guess who's walking in with you? And when he walks in with you, you permeate. You permeate the presence of Jesus in your classroom, in your office, on your job site, wherever it is you're going. It comes off of you. And that's a powerful thing. And it's not a fairy tale. Jesus kind of seeps. He kind of seeps from you. And so that's why you can make a difference, whether you're preaching or whether you're receiving or whether you're whatever, you know what I'm saying. All right? All right, so take that little talk for what it's worth. I'm going to share with you more next week about what's going on. It's remarkable what's going on. You guys, I got some stories that are, whoa. So I'll share those with you next week. All right, all done.